Welcome to the Hunger for Change podcast. I'm Niklas Gustafson, and today I'm talking to Paul Molyneaux. Paul worked in commercial fisheries and aquaculture for 25 years before turning to reporting on these industries. Paul's academic credentials include an AS in Fisheries and Marine Technology from the University of Rhode Island, a BA in Literature and Cultural History from Goddard College, and an MFA in Creative Writing from Southern New Hampshire University. Renowned for his contributions to the New York Times, Maine Boats, and Fisherman's Voice, among others, Paul's notable books include The Doryman's Reflection, Fisherman's Life, and Swimming in Circles, Aquaculture and the End of Wild Oceans. Recognized for his exemplary work, he received the Alicia Patterson Journalism Fellowship in 2003 and a Guggenheim Fellowship in 2007, further deepening his global understanding of sustainable fisheries. Currently, he is the boats and gear editor at Commercial Fishing magazine and does consulting. With a heart for education, Paul's journey from commercial fishing in 1976 to his current role reveals a profound dedication to sustainable fisheries and imparting this wisdom to future generations. Join us as we discuss fish, aquaculture, farmed fish, sustainability, and the health of the oceans. Welcome, Paul. Really nice to have you.
Yeah, good to be here.
So first of all, health is the focus of this podcast. And I want to broaden the meaning of health here, because what you do also has to do with health. The health of the ecosystem, the ocean, the animals in it, and the animals that we eat. So I'll start with the first question. What does health mean to you, Paul?
Basically, what does it mean to me? I think it's on my Skype profile. Health is the greatest treasure,
True.
And I'm 65 years old. I bike everywhere. I go rock climbing, surfing. I want to stay healthy. I'd like to see 100. I've in terms of my food for the last since 1987, I've pretty much produced all my own food.
Really? Everything you eat? And your family?
Not everything, I buy like dairy products locally from an organic dairy farm. And, I live in a place where, if a turkey comes into the backyard, I can harvest it,
Wow. Yeah.
or a deer or whatever.
That's
basically hunt in our backyard and have a big garden and do aquaponics and fish locally.
So you're still a hunter-gatherer, right? Well, Paul, tell us a bit about your background. What made you interested in fishing? How was your journey and what motivated you to start writing about it?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because before I could even read, my grandfather would take us fishing, and, we'd bring home fish and we'd gut them and, and my grandmother would fry them up. So at 4 years old, we were contributors to the household economy. We were doing something of value. And I don't know, maybe that stuck with me. I remember seeing these guys on a fishing boat. I grew up in Philly and we went down to the Jersey Shore, in the summertime, and there were these guys on this boat, and I looked at them and I just thought, I like that, And I think there's a part of me that just craves wilderness, and to be out there. The first time I was offshore, really far offshore, was 1978 in fishing albacore tuna off of California. And we were in the gale of 78. I saw mountains of water and boats, and there were Mayday calls. There were people dying, although it didn't register with me at the time. But and we got in, and this captain said, "Well, do you want to go again?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like I thought it was fascinating.
So how do you get from there to farm fishing?
Oh, just, looking for, just needing work, being on the coast and needing work. I ended up, working for an oyster farm and, in Maine, same thing, a lot of fisheries, especially when you're working inshore, is seasonal. So When scallop season ended or sea urchin. I was a sea urchin diver.
I love sea urchins.
Yeah, yeah. And when that season ended, you might go down south and get on a boat, or you might stay in the area where I live. It's the salmon farming area. So I would, go to work feeding fish for somebody or something like that.
Could you give us a brief overview of the history of farm fishing? How did it start and evolve until today?
Obviously, there was farm fishing going on thousands of years ago in places like China, and Egypt. And I think even Spain has
Really?
some
Yeah.
archaeological record of fish farming. And and in Cambodia, there's the bas reliefs near Angkor Wat on another temple called Angkor Thom, and they have, you know, what was it in around the year 700 or so when Angkor Wat was going on. They have pictures, relief in the stone of fish in ponds that they're raising in ponds.
So it's been thousands of years.
Yeah, but the modern
Yeah.
aquaculture, I
Yeah.
mean, that started as, boy, that's a long thing. But the big thing was a meeting, and one of the big things was a meeting that they had in Kyoto in 1976. And one of the things that they used to promote aquaculture was that we won't have to clean up the environment as much if we produce fish with aquaculture, because we get these little fish through the most perilous time of their lives in a hatchery,
Hmm.
and then we'll put them in the ocean. But that was a specific important, seen as a benefit of aquaculture, that you wouldn't have to clean up the rivers as much, so you could have industry
Yeah.
and fish. You could impair these nearshore waters so that they were no longer a good nursery ground for small fish, but still use them to grow the adult fish.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think, I was talking to a friend about fisheries and aquaculture management. And in Maine, we have a lobster fishery, which is it's basically owner operated. You, Niklas, would have to if you wanted to go lobster fisherman, you would have to have a boat, and you would have to be on that boat every day. We had a guy who broke his back, and he had to get on the boat in his wheelchair
Really?
in order to fish. You've got to be on that boat. So it's owner operator, so it can't be consolidated. There's no point in owning two boats because you can't be on two at once, right?
Yeah.
And basically, it's the workers own the means of production, right? But the regulation for that came out of the early 20th century labor movement. The lobstermen were AFL-CIO unionized in the early 20th century. But all the other fisheries management comes after Bretton Woods, is post-war.
Oh, really?
It's really based on consolidation, hyper efficiency, privatization, all of these things, which are, if you're looking at having local nutritious fish, which, like I would say to your listeners, if you want nutritious fish, shop locally, even, the closest you can get it to home, the better it's going to be. In many ways, you don't have to have these sort of third-party certifications. You know where it's coming from. Your transport costs, there's no carbon footprint. The closer you get it to home, the better. And when you're getting it closer to home, you're able to take on more responsibility for making sure that the environment that the fish is coming from is healthy. You can talk to your local politicians to say, hey, we need this river clean. Hey, these farmers need to reduce their nutrient runoff and things like
Mm.
that.
Talking about fishing lobster, when I was a kid, I used to fish lobster with my father every September, October, so. And that was a beautiful experience. A couple of kilometers from the coastline, close to Särö, Gothenburg, Sweden. But we usually got more crabs, actually, than lobsters in the net because we usually fish with nets.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, we got like maybe 25 crabs and 2 to 3 lobsters. That was the ratio. And yeah, the taste was just delicious.
Wow.
It's something different, from those wild lobsters. And the last 25 years, I lived far from the coast in Madrid, in the center of the country in Spain. But yeah, I still have those memories from when we went fishing lobster when I was a kid.
And where you're pulling you were using a net.
Net, yeah. How do you fish lobster in Maine?
It's illegal. Everybody's restricted to 800 traps.
Oh, traps. Okay, you use the traps. Well, I'm not sure if the nets are still allowed in Sweden. Maybe not.
In Maine, we restrict the technology,
Mm.
the participation, and the
Mm.
mobility. So you can't fish outside your zone.
Mm.
You cannot innovate, and you cannot consolidate. It's basically lobster regulations are like an enemy of capitalism in
Yeah.
fisheries.
Yeah.
And the regulations after World War II, after Bretton
Mm.
Woods,
Mhm.
are all capitalism friendly.
Really? Yeah, like everything else in this world.
Yeah.
So you fish with traps, and are you allowed to have a certain number of traps per person,
Yeah.
Per boat,
per boat? Okay, so how many per boat?
800.
800. Wow, it's a lot, isn't it?
It is, a lot of people,
But that's professional fishermen, right?
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what about just for fun?
6.
Okay, 6. Interesting.
And then we also have tribal fishery
Yeah.
in our area, the Passamaquoddy tribe. They have their own limits. Like what they did was they started with the 800, the main 800 trap limit per boat.
Mm.
And they changed it to 400 and doubled the number of fishermen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that more tribal members could participate.
So going back to the industry, in all your years of experience, what changes have you seen in the industry?
Well, I have seen like huge changes from the owner operator. It used to be basically one person, would would have a boat, whether it was a fish dragger or a lobster boat or a scallop boat. It
Mm.
would belong to, one person, usually the captain. And or as my friend, and the boats were wood, right? As my friend Vito Calomo down in Gloucester says, when the boats were wood and the men were steel. So I caught the tail end of that, in the
Yeah.
70s. In the 70s. And I saw the real transformation when I was, just getting into the fishing industry when they established a 200-mile limit. And suddenly investment was coming into the industry from outside the community.
Mm.
And, doctors and lawyers were buying fishing boats and, building
Yeah.
these steel boats. And now, we have just recently Blue Harvest, which is owned by that Dutch family. What is it? Brennetmeyer or Brittenmeyer or something. Bregel.
Okay.
Bregel. Bregel is the equity capital fund
Yeah.
that bought
Okay.
huge number of boats in
Yeah.
New Bedford, and just went bankrupt.
Really?
We had this foreign company.
Recently?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. They filed chapter, they came in,
Yeah.
they acquired all these assets from various other fishermen. They liquidated the most profitable assets, and then they filed chapter 11.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that kind of the financial monkey business that's going on in fisheries now and aquaculture. Aquaculture is worse.
Yeah.
what venture capital is, these equity funds are coming into fisheries and aquaculture, and you know, like they're attracting investors for these land-based salmon farms. Everybody gets paid, then they go bankrupt. I mean, they keep failing.
Really?
Why is that? Why do they keep failing?
Why is
I'm
that?
I'm in the process of researching this, Nicholas. It's not my, I studied economics. I'm an autodidact economist, but
Mm.
um, I'm really digging into. I'm talking to people I know, and basically, what one friend of mine says was, because the rich are getting so much richer
Yeah.
and accumulating so much wealth,
Yeah.
they have to invest it. They have to find
Yeah.
places to invest it,
Yeah.
and even if it doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
and this is what's happening.
That's for sure what's happening. I mean, we printed so much money the last 4 years. I read that we printed the same amount of dollars the last 4 years as since the dollar started being dollars. So there's a lot of liquidity in the market, and the liquidity has to go somewhere, right? So yeah, it makes sense what you say. So we often talk about different industries and how they often prioritize their financial interests over everyone's well-being, the people, the animals, and the planet. Do you see this in the fishing industry as well?
I probably get in trouble for this one, but like, so up in Alaska we have the pollock fishery, right?
Yeah.
And it has a bycatch problem of salmon, for example.
Mm.
Now, it may not be to blame. There may be other factors to blame, global warming and whatnot. But this fishery, you had half a dozen Yupik Eskimos in front of a judge in Bethel, Alaska, for having 12 Chinook salmon more than they should have. And the bycatch allotment for the pollock fishery is bigger than that entire region, that area, their fishery,
Wow.
the native fishery. So the entire native fishery. So I don't know what the number is exactly. I probably should have got it, but the bycatch allotment is huge. And these guys are in front of a judge for 12 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
The salmon runs are collapsing there,
Yeah.
Some of them Chinook. The sockeye run in Bristol Bay is as strong as ever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Why is that?
Boy, I don't know. The mysteries of the sea, like people always like I say, blame fishermen for, the problem, but a lot of it is us too, and what we're to the planet.
Yeah.
So, but for some reason, the sockeye, the way that's managed, my older son actually fishes in that fishery. He just got back, and he was up there for a month, and their one boat caught 500,000 pounds of fish.
So are they
No,
trolling?
they're using gill nets.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and there's virtually no bycatch because it's just
No.
all salmon,
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the things they're trying to do now is put in a mine, that a gold mine, pebble mine. I don't know if you've heard of it,
No.
but that will basically kill that fishery. And the Republican Trumpian governor of Alaska,
Yeah.
Mike Dunleavy, is all for it. He's
Really?
pushing to change the rules so they can get that in there.
And what's your opinion of that?
Everybody against it, no,
Yeah.
the circle with the line, no pebble mine, right? No, but everybody's against it. The only people that are for it are the billionaires who are going to make money on it.
Yeah, it's crazy. So fish is or should be an optimal source of nutrition with omega-3s, iodine, selenium, vitamin D, among other nutrients. So from your experience, is there a substantial nutritional difference between wild caught and farmed fish?
like, I don't know, because like I don't have a chemistry lab in my you know, back room, but so like, what I can speak to about the nutritional value of farm fish versus wild fish. Well, I mean, I I know, I just know that the flavor of the of wild fish is better. I feel better eating it. I feel better emotionally eating
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
because as I think one of the nutritional issues with farm fish that I would like to bring up actually is the nutritional theft from the
Yeah.
global south, right? So we are getting the feed for these salmon and shrimp mostly from forage fisheries that had been feeding coastal populations in the global south.
Mm.
So, I was in Kerala, India, and they take this big wooden canoe and they run a beach seine out from the beach way out, and then they bring it in. Have you seen this?
No, I
And
haven't.
then 30 guys are there, one on each end, pulling this net. And there's
Wow.
guys swimming around the net, keeping fish from going under it and stuff.
Okay.
And they bring this all in. Well, and then their women are there with their basins,
Yeah.
and they buy the fish from the fishermen right there,
Oh,
put it
yeah.
into their basins, and walk up into town and sell it.
Mm.
And that's the fish, that now they're it's harder and harder for them to get fish off the beach, because those same fish, when they move offshore,
Yeah.
the factory trawlers, I think the Norwegians in India had a deal for the Norwegian trawlers to come down
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get the fish, and Skretting chops them up for salmon feed.
Yeah.
And that's happening everywhere off the coast of Africa, India, South America.
All over the world, yeah.
Yeah, to feed the
Okay.
agriculture industry. It's the nutrition part is like, I mean, if you're willing to eat, uh, meat from the supermarket, then, you're probably not going to be too fussy about eating farm salmon,
No. No.
right? Like, I don't eat meat from the supermarket either. I eat meat
No.
from the backyard. If I raise it, my
Yeah.
chicken, da da da
Yeah.
da.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have chickens in my backyard, but I do buy the meat from certain places that I know they're grass fed.
You know the
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I do too. I buy meat from people locally.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but one of the selling points of aquaculture is that it's helping solve food security issues in the world, and
Yeah.
nothing could be further from the truth.
Mm.
I mean, nothing that's like a bold-faced lie, because it's doing the exact opposite, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Of certain types of aquaculture. Of course, I'm not talking about growing clams and oysters and stuff, but like salmon and shrimp
Mm.
is is putting food security at risk. It's increasing food insecurity
Yeah.
in the places that can least handle it, and increasing food security in the places that don't need to worry. Like, in North America, Western Europe, and Japan, where they're going to eat this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that there's a paper out, and I think it's called Fishing for Catastrophe. And it was published in 2019. That really goes into depth with the numbers on that.
So, what about seafood? Do you have any particular favorite? Is there any kind of seafood that you believe offers more nutritional value?
Well, yeah. I mean, people say to me, like, what do you eat? I said, I eat mackerel. I eat the mackerel that I
Yeah.
catch. I eat the small ones. I eat the small ones that haven't bioaccumulated.
When you say small mackerel, how big are they?
Like pan size, like 8 inches,
Okay, that's really small. The mackerels we caught when I was a child were more like something like this, like 30 centimeters.
Yeah, we get those too, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the sushi ones.
Yeah.
Do they accumulate more heavy metals?
The problem is that there's really no place to run anymore to
Mm.
get away from toxins in our environment and in our food. It's like, so what I mean, I think about how can I reduce that, right? So
Yeah.
here's a pelagic fish that's not hanging around in one place, bioaccumulating whatever's there.
Yeah, I agree. I do think about that when I eat fish, actually. Before, I loved to go to these sushi places, but now I do think twice. I never eat salmon anymore, as long as it's not wild caught salmon, which is basically impossible to get. And also tuna fish, swordfish, they're all high in toxins. It's not that easy. Mackerel and herring are the best.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Herring
what I
is amazing.
mackerel and herring. The
Yeah.
fish that we're chopping up to feed the salmon and shrimp is what we should be eating.
Right? I agree. I love herring. In Sweden, we eat a lot of herring, but the Swedes, they love to add so much sugar to the herring. When I go to the Netherlands, the Dutch herring is just amazing. They don't add anything to the herring. It's just salt.
Yeah, exactly. I saute it in a little butter
Yeah.
and with a little salt on it. Ah, yeah. There's nothing
I
better than
agree.
fresh herring.
Yeah, I agree.
Because where I live in Maine, we have weirs, which are the traps. So
Mm.
you take the herring alive out of the
Mm.
trap, get home, and cook it. You know.
That's
Yeah,
delicious. That's
I
delicious.
know, but I mean, not everybody has access to that.
I know.
And so like, the deep frozen stuff is also you can hardly tell the difference.
No.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I use. But also I'm a sucker for sushi. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll eat the bluefin and but I did my favorite sushi place down in Rockland, Maine, Suzuki's. It's really good.
Yeah.
Came out with farm salmon. I'm like, what are you doing? How
Right.
dare you? This is like an insult to your whole idea as a restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I do I did a story recently on a restaurant owner in Mexico City who has a restaurant called Fugaz.
Mm.
And yeah, and he goes to the he goes to the beach and he meets the fishermen and everything like that and talks to them, and then they send their fish up to the market in Mexico City, and he goes around to the market and he finds the freshest he can get, and he writes a new menu every day
Wow.
based on what he finds in the market.
How do we make better choices when sourcing our fish? Any types of fish better than others?
I think locally, of course, as local.
Yeah.
Like,
But that's hard, right? How do you find it?
actually, one of the benefits of the COVID epidemic is that it really primed the pump for a lot of direct marketing.
Yeah.
So a lot more people started doing that during the pandemic and are doing it and kept doing it. I have a friend who has a shop in Plymouth, England called Soul of Discretion. And she said if it wasn't for the pandemic, she'd have gone out of business.
Okay, that's good to hear.
And so she's doing locally. They're doing a big thing right now because Britain just got a quota for bluefin, so they have a bluefin tuna fishery now.
Okay.
So, like, would I eat that bluefin if I was pregnant? Maybe not, but that's unlikely. But would I have a little sushi? Yeah, I mean, at that price, how much of it am I going to eat, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
it was my own home water bluefin. I would eat it. I think there's a certain, as well as nutritional value, I think there's a certain emotional value to eating good fish close to home that you can establish a connection with.
Shrimp is one of the most popular seafood items consumed worldwide. Paul, from your experience in fisheries, what are the sustainability challenges and nutritional implications of wild caught versus farmed shrimp?
I'll take it from the top on shrimp.
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
lot of friends in the shrimp business,
Yeah.
I used to be in the shrimp business.
Mm.
I used to buy and sell pandalid shrimp, which is our northern shrimp, right? Which
Yeah.
are different from the Penaeid shrimp, which most people eat, right? So you like your Swedish shrimp, the little red ones, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are northern shrimp.
Mm.
They're the interesting shrimp. They start out as males and become females
I didn't know that.
in their
Okay.
third year. Yeah, they're
In the third year. All right.
yeah, they're the transsexual shrimp.
Mm.
Penaeid shrimp down south they stay the same. But the big problem has always been bycatch in the shrimp fishery, catching so much fish, shoveling it overboard for the shrimp that you get.
Mm.
They've gone a long way to that in the United States. They've been forced to. Turtle excluders and panels, and they've reduced bycatch. Still an issue. Some methods, like the butterfly nets, have less of a problem than the trawlers, and that's what most of the guys I know are using, the skimmer nets. They don't go all the way down to bottom, right? So they fish at night when the shrimp come up. They fish them. The shrimp come up in the water column. The big problem, I think, with shrimp is the farm shrimp. So what we've done, developed countries again have outsourced our dirty food production system, our feedlot, our CAFO, shrimp CAFO feed production system, or food production system, to the south. So Thailand and Ecuador get all the pollution and get the mangroves destroyed and put fishermen out of business and collect the shrimp out of these. Like I love, they show you on the package the shrimp in this clear water. It's a toilet. The shrimp are being raised in a toilet. Okay.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, what is it? It's a toilet, and you have to keep flushing it.
Yeah.
And so it's a shrimp pond. It is a muddy, smelly toilet that they can't even use after a few years because it's so full of disease, right? So there's tons of abandoned shrimp farms, and the same with salmon pens, open water salmon pens. You're basically using the ocean, as a toilet, and the tide is flushing that toilet. And in those, they get so much junk left underneath the pen. They have, like in Chile, because of disease and nutrient loading, they kept having to move the farm south. Now they're in Patagonia, so they can't go much further.
So there's a difference nutrition-wise between wild caught and farm shrimp.
I remember when I was working on my book trying to get some information on that, and it's well, they basically haven't studied it.
Right? It's hard.
Nobody's going to put money into something that's going to make them look bad in the market. But you tell me, you take a shrimp that you freeze in Thailand in 2023, and and it comes up, and it's been raised in a toilet, and it's been fed chemicals. They just about all of them test positive on some sort of antibiotic or something.
Yeah.
And you want to eat that? I mean, knock yourself out. But I mean, I wouldn't. You can, if you're a regular human being living in the world, it's going to come on a plate. You're going to be at a conference or somewhere, and it's going to come on a plate.
Yeah.
Would I eat it in that situation? Probably yes. I'm going to eat it. What else are we dealing with in this world? But am I going to seek it out? Am I going to buy it for my family? No.
What do you wish consumers understood better about the seafood they consume? Is there anything you see that's not being discussed enough that deserves more attention?
The economics, our culture. See, we're creating a split, right? Between people who can live healthy and people who can't.
Yeah.
you know,
Totally.
and that's not good. The fish is the fish that are easily accessed from the beach are being robbed, from the global south to feed the aquaculture that's feeding the global north.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you understand that social point, I mean, nutrition may not just be a mechanical thing. It may have a lot to do with your emotions too, and how you feel, and your connection with, I mean, I did a story on one restaurant owner, another one in Mexico, and he said, I want my clients to understand the value of the life of the fish,
Mm.
which is it turns eating a fish into a almost a spiritual experience,
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the closer that you, like, as I said, the closer you can get to your fish, I think the better the quality of the experience
Of course.
of eating those fish.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, with sockeye salmon, well, that's a hard to get close to that fish, but
Yeah.
but you can get close to the people who catch that fish.
Of
You
course.
can buy
Yeah.
it. You can buy it directly from them,
Yeah.
and they can tell you about the season, and they can tell you about the crazy, boats, fish coming aboard, like by the, thousands
Yeah.
of pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, but I think the economics, people do not realize that the ocean commons is being privatized.
Mm.
And aquaculture is actually less about producing food and more about accumulating power.
Just like the food industry, right? That's what's happening.
There's something basic that has to happen economically. And I was at a conference at Columbia University, and the guy, Sam Eaton from Marketplace, which is a radio show,
Yeah.
said to me, in your view, is there no place for trawlers on the ocean? And I said, never mind my view. Use your own measures, okay? But do the accounting accurately, okay? Make sure you put into the business model for
Yeah.
that trawler the depreciation of the ocean floor,
Yeah.
depreciation of the communities for all the people that are going to be put out of, all the small boats that are going to be put out of work.
Yeah.
Put those numbers into your business model.
Yeah.
Do the accounting accurately. That's a cost.
It's a cost, yes. It's about thinking short term or long term. Short term, you might see that it's profitable. But if you think long term, probably not.
Honestly, Niklas, until we change the way that our economy works, because we do not depreciate social and natural capital. Nobody puts that on their books. And they say, and what I say is that because you can't establish a value for it, you call it worthless instead of priceless.
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
you're destroying priceless resources.
Of course.
that took. It's crazy. So until we get the economics changed, we're basically, rearranging seats on the Titanic.
In your opinion, Paul, how can small scale fishing contribute to a holistic and healthy lifestyle? Not only for the consumers, but also for the fishermen.
I would point you to a guy named Pisit Chansno in Thailand, who runs an organization called Yadfon. And on the Palian River in Thailand, which has only a 50-mile watershed, what they did was connect the upland, the highest upland indigenous people, the lower down farmers, and then the farmers down below them, and the fishermen, and they brought them all together and said,
Wow.
hey, this is a cycle. You want fish? You want cheap fish close to
Mm.
home?
Mm.
We can bring them to you, but you have to protect our estuary where we
Mm.
catch fish, right? And they got rid of their gear that was destructive, aggressive fishing gear.
Mm.
Like versus
Yeah.
your net that you towed for lobsters versus our traps,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And various fish traps, passive gear that depends on a healthy resource, like a fish trap.
Yeah.
Depends on there being lots of fish, and the beach seines that they go out and pull in from the beach, things like that.
Mm.
Or just hooking from the beach. It's, oh my God, it's better. Better for the fishermen,
Yeah.
because like when the fish are gone off the beach, some of those boats, they're gone for 30 days, and they take the kids with them, the 12-year-old, so he's not getting any school, right? I
Mm.
mean, I've been there when they at the big fish market in Kochi in India,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
these people have been out on that boat for 30 days. They're coming from down at the southern tip of Kerala. And, the fish is not good quality because they don't have the ice and stuff like that.
Mm. Mm.
But, you fish close to home. I have another friend, and he fishes spiny lobsters out in the Channel Islands, Santa Barbara.
Mm.
And they sell, there's another guy who fishes spot prawn. He traps spot prawn. He goes out for like 2-3 days
Where is that?
out of San Diego.
Ah, San Diego.
He goes out for 2 or 3 days fishing spot prawn, has a refrigerated seawater system, keeps them alive and cold, brings them in and sells them at the dockside market in San
Mm.
Diego for like the top price. So it's gone direct from him
Yeah.
to the consumers. So, and he's getting, people feel better
Yeah.
about that. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, we talk about the nutrition, but it's when fishermen are able to go home at night, their family life is better.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah. Of course.
they have more connect. Yeah.
Is that growing recently? This kind of selling from the fisherman directly to the consumer, is that something that we see more of?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, the pandemic really,
Right.
almost every direct marketing company that I know tells me that they saw at least a 300% increase in business during the pandemic.
That's great news. I think that's something that we see, not only in fish and seafood, but also meat, grass fed meat. Farmers selling directly to the consumer. It's something we've seen grow a lot in the last few years. Thanks to the pandemic, it got easier to reach the consumer, right?
And I was at a conference and a woman there, it was like a, um, global sustainable food conference, and a woman
Mm.
there was saying, it was quite famous in those circles, was like, yes, but how do we make it affordable for people?
Yeah.
And I said, you're asking the wrong question. I said, it has to be the price it has to be. It has to be priced accurately. Why can't people afford it?
Mm.
Why, we need to get more money to people. I mean, average people should have enough money in their pocket to
Mm.
buy that,
Of course.
Yeah. Maybe not salmon every day, but, we eat salmon at least, we stock our salmon at least twice a week.
So, what kind of salmon is that? How do you make sure that the salmon that you get is good quality?
Well, it's sockeye salmon coming from Bristol Bay.
Mm.
That's like the most sustainable fishery. And actually now the price is quite low. In terms of what it's carrying in, um, I can't say.
What does it eat, that salmon?
It eats mostly. See, well, here's the thing. Wild salmon, when they're small, eat algae.
Algae. Okay.
farm salmon, when they're little, are eating food that's made from fish that would eat them. Blue whiting that's already bioaccumulated. Now it's turned into this, and these little fish are eating that from the start. And they've turned the food pyramid upside down, right, for those first few months, because that fish would eat them, and they're eating it. That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's not what they should eat. So, Paul, how do you see the future of ethical fishing?
What would I like to see for the future of ethical fishing? Oof. Because I would like to see, for one thing, first foremost, no absentee ownership, right? You own a boat, what we do in Maine, basically, I think the Maine lobster fishery, it's not sustainable unfortunately, because of its dependence on bait. It uses we talk about the ratio of food to aquaculture salmon. The ratio of bait to wild caught lobster is worse. It's worse, But structurally, the industry is a great example, because what they do is control ownership is limited to the fishing people in the community, so participation is limited to local people.
Right.
And they have to fish locally, and their gear is controlled.
Not being owned by venture capital funds.
Yeah, again, like what Bissett Chansno did in the Palian River. The local fishermen got together and said, we're not going to use this aggressive gear anymore because it's damaging the ecosystem. Right. So, Maine fishermen are right now in hot water because of entanglements with whales. They're under a lot of pressure. But but the thing, I guess, to go back to your question, what could fishing look like? It could be local, it could be owner operated, it could be simplified technologically to, passive gear that is less detrimental to the environment. And it could be connected to watershed activities. It needs to be a watershed awareness. Am I wearing, for instance, am I wearing polyester clothing? Well, when I wash that clothing, that's one of the biggest sources of microplastics in the ocean is our washing machines and the polyester clothing that we wear. So I would say, throw my polyester clothing or whatever, turn it into, stuff it into bags and make pillows out of it or whatever. But think about what we flush down the toilet. Can we have a composting toilet? Can we not use polyester clothing? Can we get rid of our cars? 30% of the nutrient loading in the Chesapeake Bay in the US is coming from airborne nitrogen. From our cars. So it's like we got to get real. And the world needs to change, and it's not headed that way because of the accounting we do. The way we do accounting drives us to make stupid decisions. And until I really believe that until we change the way we do our accounting, we're not going to price things properly. We're going to have boom and bust. And it's going to signal us to continue to destroy the planet.
To take your wrong decisions. I agree.
Because we're not doing the accounting right. We're getting the wrong signals. People talk about capitalist or communist. I say, well, both are using the wrong accounting, right? So it's like, we got to get the accounting right. And then these systems might start to work. Even capitalism could work if we did the accounting right.
That's a perfect way to end this podcast, I think.
So thank you so much, Paul. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah. Nice talking to you guys.
Bye, Paul. Thank you so much for listening to the Hunger for Change podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I also wanted to take a moment to talk about Naturally, my brand of healthy food products. At Naturally, we are on a mission to change the world through what we eat. This is why we worked so hard to make products that are delicious and also good for you. They're all gluten-free, have no refined sugars, no sweeteners, and no additives. My personal favorites are the cheesy snacks, chocolates, and cacao hazelnut spread. We also have cookies, granolas, nut bars, nut butters, and protein powders, as well as many cool snacks to be released soon. At the moment, Naturally is only available in Europe. However, we're working to expand to other continents, so stay tuned. If you're in Spain, you can head over to our website, naturally.com, and it will take you to our online store. And if you're in Italy, Portugal, Germany, Poland, France, the Netherlands, or in Sweden, you can find them on Amazon. Search for Naturally. I will leave you all these links in the description anyway, so that you can find them. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode.